You are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Welcome back to I Am Refocused Radio. Once again, we are here today, and man, we have a true powerhouse today. We have Rusty Austin. You know him with his work. I mean, let me just run it down for you. Reality TV, storytelling, but he's also doing children's books now. But let's go rewind the clock a little bit. He's spent decades behind the scenes shaping some of your most favorite iconic reality television shows. Stuff like Hell's Kitchen, Nanny 911, Survivor, and Cops. But now, Rusty Austin is bringing that same amazing talent and creativity, but he's putting that energy in children's books. And when kids laugh, they're learning. And we're going to learn a little bit more about our special guest today. I just want to cut to the chase and say, Rusty, thank you for being on with us today. How you doing, man?
Hey, thanks for having me on. I'm doing great. I'm actually traveling right now. I'm in the Bay Area. Normally, I live in Palm Springs, so it's a little bit cooler up here.
When you think about your experience dealing with some very iconic heavyweight brands and things that a lot of people grew up watching. I mean, what's some of the things that you learned overall with your experience being in such a high, fast-paced industry? Because not too many people can survive in those cutthroat industries.
Well, one thing I learned is that you never really finish editing. You just run out of time. But one thing we do with reality TV that has really helped me with my children's books is you have 400 hours of footage for 1 hour of show. So you have to hone down and just find the very essence of what you're looking for. And you have a tight deadline for that. So you get pretty good at that part of the process.
Now, we know reality TV is unscripted, but it still has structure. How does shaping real life movements in television prepare you in writing these stories and poems for kids?
Well, we say that in scripted television, you write the script and then shoot the show. And in reality, you shoot the show and then write the script. And so that's kind of like, again, I say that's helped me really focus in on what I want to say. My children's books are all poems, and they're generally 12 to 15 words and 3 to 5 lines. So I try to really get the essence of like what the animal eats or where it lives, how it lives, its habitat, what it looks like, how it attracts its mates, and like that.
When you consider being able to retire from Hollywood in 2018, you didn't slow down. You just kind of changed a chapter and started something new.
We spent a couple years on an RV just traveling around the country, and then while I'm doing that, I was writing the children's books because I grew up in Colorado, and a lot of the lifestyle there is outdoors on weekends where you go camping and fishing and backpacking and hiking and whatnot. So you get around, you have a lot of nature and animals in your background when you grow up like that. And so, like when I'm driving on the RV and I pass a herd of sheep, it occurs to me, I wrote a poem about sheep that goes, "The ram will ram you, so too the ewe, if neither finds itself with nothing better to do." So that's kind of the process.
I love the creativity. Kind of rewind a little bit on the time clock. What inspired you to get in entertainment in the first place? Like, what was some of the things?
When I was in Colorado, I was a roofer, and I did that for about 6 or 7 years, and then I realized that the roof, it's always 100 degrees. Nothing on the construction job site weighs less than about 60 pounds, and it's just hard, brutal, nasty work. And I wanted something a little more fun, to be honest. I mean, I had fun doing it, but I wanted to do something a little more fun. So I applied to some film schools, and I found out that if you go to community college for a couple years and get good grades, any four-year university is looking for people to get in, because half of their kids that start in their sophomore and their freshman year don't get past year 2, and so they have this huge need for good community college students. So I did that. I applied to NYU and USC and UCLA and got into UCLA Film School, that was in the late 80s, right when the reality television boom was just starting. And so when I got out of film school, the most jobs were in reality. Although I did work in movies for a couple of years, I did lighting and grip, but again, the same thing, hot and heavy work. And so that's when I kind of got into the very ground floor of reality, which was Cops at the time, was like the first show.
Man, love that show. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Everyone knows the theme song. Come on now. That's a classic. When you think about the creativity, being able to see firsthand, I mean, just being part of iconic projects, right? What do you think that helped you with their creativity part in helping these books be fun? Because you say humor is another powerful tool for education.
Yes, and that's the thing about the reality television too, is the casting is so critical. You want to get a mix of serious and humorous, and tall and short, what have you, as part of the cast. So you have all those different realities clashing into each other, and that kind of helps me with the animals, because my first book was Beware the Grizzly Bear, and I did like the horse and the house cat and the rat, and then I started doing more books, and I found out, there's 20,000 species of animals in the world, and you can write about every one of them eventually. So I was, anytime I see something on the internet or hear something about an interesting animal, like, for example, right now I'm working on something called a red-shanked duke, which is a primate indigenous to, I think, Madagascar, with red legs, and that's why it's called the red-shanked duke. And so I'm sure a lot of kids have never even heard of a red-shanked duke, and hopefully by writing about it will make them think, I should find out what this is and do a little research.
Once again, listen to Refocused Radio and watching us online, talking to our special guest today, Rusty Austin. I want to say again, thank you for taking some time being with us today. What did you notice about kids when they realized their artwork would actually be published in a real book? Because there's a story there about that process.
That's my latest book called An Awesome Bird, the Pelican. And what happened was I was on this website called Donors Choose, which is kind of like a GoFundMe for teachers. And I noticed one of my local teachers was asking for money to buy poetry books for her middle schoolers. And so I contacted her through the website and asked if I could come in and read my latest book, which at the time was called The Unicorn Has One Horn, to her class. And I came in and I kind of expected them to be fidgety and bored and not really liking it. But as it turned out, they were extremely interested and totally paid attention and totally rapt and very excited about it. And so I had the idea to pitch to the teacher, well, why don't we get these kids to do the illustrations for the next book, An Awesome Bird, the Pelican? And so she signed up for it, and she would, every Friday afternoon, I think they spend an hour or two working on it. She did a whole whiteboard graph that showed each kid which animal they were working on. And we let the kids decide the animals. We did not assign them. And out of 100 kids, I think I had 44 poems. So I kind of had to pick and choose. But what I did also was at the beginning and the end of the book, I just had a section of nothing but pictures. So every single kid that did a picture got his picture in the book. Very exciting for the kids. They really liked it. And along those same lines, on all my books, I have a do-it-yourself section at the end of the book, which is 4 animals. I think I did rhinoceros, tarantula, ladybug, and one other animal in the Pelican book. And I give them like a frame to draw in and then 4 lines to write their poems. And I've heard a lot of feedback back from parents that that's some of the kids' favorite part of the books is the do-it-yourself section. So I feel good about that.
And just to expand on that point, why you think that is so powerful and important to get kids active and have some kind of interactive portion of the book where they can kind of have hands-on experience?
Yes. Yeah, I feel that so much of today is just screen time for kids, and to have them actually get something that they can feel in their fingers and in their brains and write with a pencil, I think is extremely important for kids. And there's nothing wrong with screen time. I appreciate it. When I did my class reading, the teacher had a big screen to show the pictures from the book, which was so much better than me just holding the book up. But, they need more than that, I think. And so that's why I like to offer that.
How has family influenced this phase of your work, and what inspirations, if any, do you draw from that? Well,
I'm both a parent and a grandparent, and I've really enjoyed seeing my kids read my stories to their kids. They send me pictures and videos of stuff, and it's wonderful. And so being a parent, you have a lot of things that you start out young and you don't really know anything. And so you kind of have to learn on the go. And as you get older, you get better and better at it. And so that's really inspired me to try to get something to my grandchildren to get a better start than I had with my kids somewhat. I don't know. Maybe it's working. Maybe it isn't.
You're doing a lot of shows, so it's definitely working. When you think about the opportunity to write tributes, right? You have work as well where you contribute to a childhood friend who passed away at 60. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I did a memoir for my friend Dave, who passed away when he was 60 a couple years ago. And what I did was I reached back into our past growing up in the 70s and 80s and 90s and all the adventures that we had. And so I had a lot of pictures. And before there was digital pictures, you had film cameras. And so you had to really be careful about the pictures that you took because you only could take 24. Now with the digital camera, you can take 1,000 and pick the 3 best. But with the film camera, you kind of had to pick and choose. And so I went back into my film archives and got some pictures of us and wrote a book of short stories of our adventures called Dave and Me. And it was kind of really more for the family and for myself, but it's turned out to be pretty popular. So, and I put some other stuff in there too, like some poems that I had written and a story about all the cars that I've owned that weren't actually about Dave, but most of it is about Dave.
Tell us a little bit of your experience being able to put your work out there and get it published, because a lot of people are like, man, what's the magic sauce to get this to where it's actually successful and worth doing?
It's a process, I can tell you. The thing that I found is just never give up, because as soon as you give up, you lose it all. And if it's something that you really want to do, you just have to keep trying and trying until it really is. If at first you don't succeed, try again. And so that's what I do. And also there's a whole publishing industry now that used to be called self-publishing, but now we call it on-demand. And you don't have to actually, there's not such a great stigma of not having a real publisher anymore. You can publish your own work. There's Amazon.com, Walmart.com, BarnesandNoble.com. There's a huge worldwide company called Ingram Spark that will publish on demand. So if people go into a bookstore, they can order your book through the bookstore. And that stigma has really been fading away over the last 10 years. And so if you can't get a publisher, do the on-demand thing. It works. It worked for me.
Stories are powerful. Stories
they really are.
Since beginning of time. Understanding that and the success you're having with your projects, what would you say to authors out there who feel like, man, I just don't know what is step one for me in this marketing game? What would you say to them just to kind of give them some inspiration that, hey, you know what? This is what I did, what I knew, and this is what I know now. Yeah,
like I said, what I did when I first started out, what happened was there was a book on Facebook called Go the F to Sleep that kind of went viral. And so I said, that sounds interesting. Maybe I'll publish some stuff on Facebook. So I put a few poems on Facebook for a couple of years, and my friends all said, these are really good. You should write a book. And so then I wrote the book, put it on Amazon.com. It didn't sell really well for a while, but family and friends I bought it for and gave it to them. And because I was making money on my career, I didn't really need to make money in publishing. So that helped me a lot. My advice is to definitely have something that you can make money on, because it takes a long, long time. It took me 3, 4, 5 years before I was even selling 1 or 2 a week. And now I sell a few hundred a month, and that's all on demand. I don't actually have a real traditional publisher. I just publish it myself on demand. And I would give a couple of quotes. Stephen King said, "The art of writing is the art of applying the seat of the pants to the seat of the chair." And that is so true. You have to really sit down and do your work, and you have to be true to yourself. You can't try to copy anybody else, because it just comes through and it never works. And you can tell by reading it if you're being true to yourself or not. And the second quote I would give is from Winston Churchill, who said, "The work of the world is done by people that don't feel very well." And so if you get up and you don't feel like doing it, do it anyway, because that's what everybody feels like.
That's good. I appreciate you saying that. Once again, listen to our Refocused Radio and watching us online, talking to our guest today, Rusty Austin, all about reality TV, storytelling, and his children's books. I just want to say, you want something for Christmas? Hello, it's what, Friday? You still have time. This interview's
coming. Yeah.
Tomorrow. So you have time. I want you to talk to the parents out there, do a little sales pitch. Why should they not just support your books, but take this opportunity to have something nice for their kids this holiday season?
Well, one thing I would say to parents that's really nice about my books is you can open up to any page and read a poem or 2 poems or 3 poems. It's not linear. You don't have to start at the beginning and finish at the end. And the other pitch I would make to them is the kids love the do-it-yourself section. If you get them a box of crayons and a pencil and just have them go nuts on it, they'll ask you for help, sure, but they can do a lot of it on their own too. So that would be my main sales pitch, is do it for the kids.
Things always go fast pace, and
they really do. The time just flies.
Yeah, and when you think of the opportunity to get young people's minds while they're young, I mean, they're gonna grow fast.
Yeah, it happens so fast. When you're a parent and you're in it, it seems like so long, but after it's over, you still have 40 years of your life to live. So just be aware that enjoy every moment and make every moment last. Don't try to speed up your life. Try to slow it down is my advice.
Man, you got amazing gems throughout this whole show. So I want to say this for our audience. People like our guest today, Rusty, like, you gotta support what they're doing. And I'll say that, like, reason why I say that is because there are people who really care about what they do, and there are people who just want to make a buck. Yeah, I don't see that, man. I see this guy who really cares about his project.
I do care. You're right.
And you're on a good mission. And I want to say I commend that, man.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, sir. Well, before we let you go officially, for those who are watching and listening to us and they want to keep supporting what you're doing, what's the best way they can keep in touch with you online?
RustyAustin.com. All my books are available there. You can choose Amazon or Walmart, whatever platform you like to use, you can get it through there. And right now I'm writing a book called The Two-Headed Snake, which is the two-headed snake wants to turn left but needs to turn right, and he better decide or we'll be here all night. And that one will be up probably towards the end of January. If you miss Christmas, there's still new books coming out all the time.
Well, that's awesome. That's good to hear. That sounds like that's going to be a very entertaining one. That needs to be like a cartoon movie or something. But once again, to our guest, Rusty Austin, like always, want to say thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much for having me on.